Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. Good afternoon, and I hope everybody is doing great there. I'm Veda here. I'll be hosting today's webinar session. We have a very interesting discussion lined up for you today. We're going to talk about FDA's latest introduction of e-invoicing for businesses in the UAE. So most of you might have known about this. There's a requirement coming up soon. We are here to share some of the information that is made available. And most importantly, we have a lot of experience to also share with you in regards to how we implement or how we help our customers uh, meet the local e-invoicing requirement. So before we go ahead, just a quick introduction. As some of you may have already known, we at Flick, we're a global solution provider for e-invoicing. We help our customers across the globe in meeting local laws in terms of regulation, especially on e-invoicing. We also partner up with ERP providers like Zoho in providing solutions for end users or enterprise customers in meeting e-invoicing regulations. So previously, we have worked on e-invoicing requirement in Singapore, Malaysia. We have also done a lot of work in Europe, like in Germany, Belgium, France. So we come with a lot of experience. So if you are looking for a solution provider to help you and to assist you in meeting this upcoming requirement from the local authority, we'll be the best in terms of providing, in terms of insights, and also a quick turnaround time at a valuable cost. So let's get right into it. So today we'll discuss more about e-invoicing, what are the requirements, the timeline, and we'll also let you know about PEPPOL Network and how this would also be involved in the e-invoicing model that is introduced by the UAE government. We'll talk about key points to note, and we have a demo to show you, all of you as well, on how we integrate with ERP systems like Oracle, SAP, and many other systems as well. So we'll take a look at some of the dashboards, and I'm sure most of you will have questions as well. So towards the end of the meeting, you may unmute and ask some of the questions, or feel free to use the text box that is down there to type in your questions. And towards the end of the meeting, we'll be able to answer some of your questions. So without further ado, let me introduce to you our head of e-invoicing, Mr. Irshad, who has done a lot of work across the globe in terms of helping businesses, really large companies, mid enterprises in meeting the e-invoicing requirement. So Irshad, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Veda. Thanks for the great introduction and welcoming everyone to this webinar session. So without further ado, let's get started with introduction of what is e-invoicing in UAE. So basically, when we say about e-invoicing, most of you might refer it to as giving the invoice or the other documents like debit notes or credit notes in an electronic format to your customer. So in UAE, the e-invoice is an exchange of documents in a structured format. So when we say about structured format, it is an XML template which is in a standard format issued by UAE, which is called as PINT UAE. So PINT is for PEPPOL International. So for different countries like Malaysia or Australia or New Zealand, they have their own PINT format. So when you are issuing in UAE, the e-invoice should be in the structured format of PINT UAE, which is yet to be issued by the UAE government. And any other documents like PDFs, images, Word documents, or just emailing the contents of an invoice in a text format or anything like that is not e-invoicing. So only the things that you share in a structured format in UAE are considered as e-invoicing. So in UAE, there are two main components to the e-invoicing. One is the exchange of document between the supplier and the buyer, and the reporting element with the FTA. or the Ministry of Finance. So one is that you have the responsibility to share the invoice in a structured format with your buyer, and as well as report that particular transaction or the tax details with the Ministry of Finance. So why the Ministry of Finance or UAE government has introduced e-invoicing is mainly to minimize the VAT leakage and improve all the sectors in UAE to a more digital economy and improve the efficiency. So as per the UAE government's released studies, it has been found that in other countries where it has adopted e-invoicing, there has been improvements in efficiency up to 66%, where most of the data entry or manual processes has been eliminated and everything is automated through e-invoicing. So we can expect such things coming in UAE as well once we have e-invoicing go live. And when speaking about the timeline, when we should expect different things, in quarter two of 2025, we expect that the e-invoice legislation to be released. So this is the official date given by the Ministry of Finance. So around quarter two, during those months, we'll have the initial publication of the e-invoicing laws and policies, and even the pinned UAE format, how it will be, and how you have to send different transactions between your buyer and your seller, and so on. And in July 2026, we would have the phase one of e-invoicing go live. So usually in any other country, the e-invoicing happens in different phases. So it's usually depending upon the turnover, but in UAE, the specific criteria has not been published yet. So if we take the case of KSA or Saudi Arabia, uh, the first go live happened for customers or the taxpayers who are having turnover of more than 3 billion riyals in any particular year, and 500 million riyals, and so on, was the different waves and different deadline for each of these taxpayers. So, as I mentioned, this criteria has not been determined yet. Usually, it will be based on the turnover itself, just like in any other country. And prior to this July 2026 go live, we would be seeing a pilot phase for selected taxpayers to see how the e-invoicing is going on. And that is expected around quarter three of 2025 itself, right after the legislation has been issued. So this is about the timeline. So now let's just learn about what is PEPPOL Network. So PEPPOL Network is a non-profit organization based in Europe, where they're managing a global network where you can transfer different documents between a buyer and a seller. So in simpler terms, you can understand PEPPOL Network just like an email platform where you can email a particular document from one entity to the other entity. But in this case, it will be in a structured format, in a standardized way for each particular country. So you don't have to parse or decrypt the data in a different format, but you would have it in the standardized format. So a PEPPOL network would allow businesses and government entities to exchange invoices or any other documents like associated documents like credit notes, debit notes, or in some other countries, we have refund notes as well. So all these documents we can electronically transfer through the PEPPOL network. So this is where the pinned UAE and pinned Malaysia formats comes into play. Say for example, if your supplier is in Malaysia and is registered in a PEPPOL network, once he submits the document to your UAE entity, you would be receiving it in the format of UAE. So he might be submitting it in the Malaysian format itself, but once you receive it, you will be receiving it in a standard format itself in your your required format of your particular country. And there are two elements. One is PEPPOL identifier and access point. So PEPPOL identifier, in an email perspective, you can think about PEPPOL identifier as your email address. So once I need to issue you an invoice, I need to know your PEPPOL identifier so that I can issue that particular invoice to you. So usually the identifier contains two aspects. One is the country code, and the other one is your tax registration number or any other particular identifier particular to that country. So if I go to a PEPPOL directory, which I have over here. And if I search for Samsung, I will be able to see, let me just refresh this page and search for Samsung. So I'll be able to see, sorry, Samsung. So I can see in Italy, Samsung Electronics is having the PEPPOL ID over here. So this first element over here before the colon, as you can see over here, is a country code. And post this is the tax identification number for that particular country. So for different countries, you can see over here, they have different PEPPOL ID. And even in Singapore, they have a different identifier altogether, which is alphanumeric. So different countries would have different things. And in UAE, what you will be seeing is your TIN number, which is the first 10 digits of your tax registration number as given by FTA. That would be your PEPPOL ID or the participant ID in your PEPPOL network. So if I want to issue an invoice to you, I can either search for you in this particular directory. So this is the global directory, and there would be a specific directory just for UAE, which will be available in FTA's website once I publish it. So all the e-invoicing entities would be available in that particular list, and you would get their ID from there. So using this ID, you will be able to submit uh, any particular document specific to that member in the PEPPOL network through this network itself. And another element is the access point. So in an email perspective, you can think about access point as something like, there are Gmails, Outlook, and, maybe Zoho email or anything like that. So you can send a particular document from Gmail to Outlook. Like similarly, there are different access providers or you can say access points within the PEPPOL network, which you can submit a particular document from one access point to the other access point. And in UAE, only a certified access points will be able to function within the country of UAE. So all these certified PEPPOL service providers is available in the PEPPOL's organization website under the certified service providers. You can search for Flick over here, and you'll be able to see Flick Network already being a certified provider in the PEPPOL network. And saying about e-invoicing, there are different kinds of models over there. So UAE has adopted a much more efficient model, which is called as a five-corner model. But other countries like Australia or New Zealand or Japan has adopted a four-corner model. So in four-corner model, there are four elements. One is the supplier's access point, the buyer, and the buyer's access point. So these are the four corners within a four-corner model, but UAE has adopted a five-corner model, which the fifth corner or the fifth entity within that model is the Ministry of Finance. So as I mentioned, there is exchange of document and reporting to FTA as well. So that is in the five-corner model. So we'll see more about how is the data flow in five-corner model and everything in the coming slides. So before we move into how e-invoicing is in UAE, we can understand how the e-invoicing model is in Saudi Arabia, which is a neighboring country and has already adopted e-invoicing in 2023. So in Saudi Arabia, once a supplier issues an invoice, it gets submitted to any approved service provider, just like Flick, who will do the data validation, prepare the XML in the required format of KSA, which was UBL 2.1, which is a universal business language in Saudi Arabia. So once we generate that and sign it using a signature, we'll have to submit that particular document to the government authority over there. Only once they give the clearance, we will be able to submit that document to the buyer. So the person who has to give that particular PDF with the QR code to the buyer was with the supplier. So if I am using Oracle ERP or SAP ERP, if I issue the document, submit it from my system, once I get the clearance, I need to give that document to the buyer. So now let's see what is the case of five corner model in UAE. So as I mentioned, there are five different corners over here. So countries that has adopted four corner model only has the supplier's accredited e-invoicing provider, the buyer's accredited e-invoicing provider, and the buyer's ERP. But since it is a five-corner model, we have the Ministry of Finance or FTA in this picture as well. So in this case, the supplier, he might be using any ERP. So whatever the ERP that is being used, you can enter the data in the Oracle or SAP or any ERP. Once he posts the invoice, it gets transferred to the corner 2, which is the accredited e-invoicing service provider, just like Flick, where we would convert it into the pinned format of UAE, and we'll see if that particular buyer is registered within the PEPPOL network. So as I mentioned, there is a PEPPOL directory where we can see, if he is registered in UAE or not. So I mean, he's registered for e-invoicing or not. So once we have that ready, we'll send that document through PEPPOL network to the buyer's accredited service provider. He might be using the same service provider, maybe Flick in this case, but he can be using any other service provider as well. But in that case, we'll send the document to that buyer's accredited service provider. From there, they can automate it and enter it to the buyer's ERP. And once it is getting submitted to the buyer's accredited service provider, they would send an acknowledgement that we have received this particular document. And then this service provider of the supplier needs to report the tax details of this particular transaction with the Ministry of Finance and the Federal Tax Authority through their central database in the required format. So once they receive it, they would acknowledge that the particular document has been reported. So all of these statuses that the buyer has received and it has been reported with the ministry, both these statuses will be updated in the supplier's ERP. So when we are showing you the ERP demos, we'll just show you, how the status and things like that you will be able to see within your ERP. So this is the uh, data flow, or how the transaction or a particular transaction will be happening in UAE. So supplier issues it, it is received by the service provider, we would send it to the buyer service provider and also report that particular transaction with the ministry. So both the acknowledgements once we receive will be updating with the supplier, so he can be sure that a particular transaction has been reported to the ministry and has been received by the buyer as well. So other key points of frequently asked questions that you should be aware is that if you are a group VAT, so a group VAT is where a group of members have a common tax registration number, but each member acts separately in their business. So in that case, in case of group VAT, you must have a separate endpoint via UAE accredited service provider. So just because your group representative has onboarded into e-invoicing doesn't mean other members have complied with e-invoicing, but each separate member has to get complied with e-invoicing. And when issuing an invoice, in the buyer, the supplier will be giving the group's TRN number itself, but the endpoint or to whom it should be delivered should be the member's endpoint itself. So if there are 10 members within a group VAT and they are using a common group TRN number, in the transaction, it would be the group TRN number, but where it has to be delivered should be to the member's endpoint. That is why we mentioned that, as per UAE government, each member should have a separate endpoint itself. And say, for example, you have an export transaction with a non-PEPPOL registered customer. Say, for example, you're transporting some goods from UAE to Saudi Arabia, where Saudi Arabia is not using PEPPOL network as of right now. So in that case, your buyer doesn't have any PEPPOL network registration ID. So what you can do is that if your foreign buyer doesn't have a PEPPOL ID, you can give a dummy endpoint. So in that case, the document will not get delivered to the buyer automatically, but the reporting to the FTA should happen mandatorily, regardless if your buyer is PEPPOL registered or not. So even if that particular country where you're exporting to has PEPPOL network or not, you'll still have to report that particular transaction to FTA. But the delivery, you'll have to do it manually via email or any other modes. And when saying about self-billing, if you are already having a contract or an agreement with your supplier that you would be self-billing yourself, so in that case, it's the buyer who has to create the e-invoice and report that particular transaction to FTA if there is a self-billing agreement between the buyer and the seller. So the seller need not do anything in that case. The buyer would be the one who will create the e-invoice and will exchange the document with the seller and report it to FTA. And as I mentioned, going forward, we would have a PEPPOL directory just for UAE itself. So all the businesses that are onboarded into e-invoicing will be listed in this particular PEPPOL directory. So you'd be able to search by their name or search by their ID and see them listed in this particular directory. So right now the URL is not published yet, but it would be available in FTS website or Ministry of Finance website once it is being published. Excuse me. Yeah. So identifier for businesses. So in PEPPOL, as I mentioned, there is a PEPPOL ID, and it would be the TIN number, which is the first 10 digits of your TRN. That would be acting as your identifier based on the country code as well. And another question is that, are you able to internally develop e-invoicing solutions? So if you have the technical capability to develop a solution internally, still you will have to be an accredited service provider in order to exchange and report invoices in UAE. Yes. So let's see about ERP integration. So we have a variety of ERP integration videos available with us. So we'll be just showing you one by one how it will be from an e-invoicing perspective, how your ERP would be functioning. So, 1 second. So we know different members in this webinar is using different ERPs. So just to keep it simple, we'll be just going through EBS, SAP S/4HANA, and B1 Fusion, and so on. I think we have a question. Yes. Yes, Infor LN as well. So even if you have a multi logistics environment in Infor, we'll be able to still help you with that by creating a custom integration with that. We have already performed multiple integrations with Infor LN itself, and even with versions that are pretty much old, which doesn't have API capabilities, we still have managed to develop packages that can function in your Infor LN. I'm not sure if we have an integration video. Yeah, yes, do we have an integration video over here? So it's something like this. So when you have a particular transaction, you can just in your Infor LN, this is within an on-premise network. So you can still give the transaction type and the invoice number, or we can even give this generate button directly on your invoicing 360 itself, where you can select that particular transaction, click on generate, and it would just submit the request and would give you the status, if it is success or failed. Or in in Malaysia, there is a particular thing like a UUID or a unique ID is issued for any particular document. So that is displayed over here. Since UAE's legislation is not still released, we are just taking through how the ERP integration in Infor LN will be, for UAE. But what I'm showing you is in Malaysia e-invoicing perspective. So basically, you just give the transaction number and click on generate, and it would be able to give you, if there is any validation error, all such things would be displayed in the error messages. And for success transaction, you'll be able to see this over there. And when you print the PDF, there would be the QR. So usually in any other country for e-invoicing, there is a QR element involved. But in UAE, it has still not been mentioned that there would be a QR mandatorily. So we'll have to wait for the publications to be released to see if we'll be having QR codes or not in UAE. But basically, this would be it in Infor. So you can either have a entry over here, or you can go to Invoicing 360 and directly issue the document, transfer it to your customer directly from there. And for Oracle EBS users, we already know a lot of you are using Oracle EBS. So in Oracle EBS, what we usually do is that in your transactions module, we have these DFFs available over here. So I'll just play the video. So you can see different status message and things like that. So all the custom fields, we'll be creating it for you. And with these custom fields, you'll be able to know if it has been received by your buyer and things like that. And under the actions menu, we usually create a button submit to LHTN. So in this case, it will be, report this particular e-invoice to FTA, or exchange this document with the buyer. So that custom button will be there for the UAE. As I mentioned, this is for Malaysia, where LHDN is their tax authority, which is managing e-invoices over there. So once you click this submit to LHTN button, you would just see an acknowledgement message in your Oracle EBS ERP saying that this particular document has been submitted successfully. As you can see over here, the request has been submitted. So once you refresh this particular transaction, you would be able to see all your DFF containing if it has been submitted, along with the UUID and all these things. So in perspective of UAE, you'll be able to see if your buyer has received this particular document, or if your buyer, if we have reported this transaction perfectly with FTA, or if you are any validation errors, you will be able to see all those directly in your ERP itself. Okay, so that's about Oracle EBS integration side. And if I just open about SAP S/4HANA, which is also a common ERP used in UAE. So what we'll be giving you is a custom T code or a Z program, which you can run in your SAP S/4HANA, and it would display all the invoices that you have till now, along with the status message, UUID, and all these things that is specific to Malaysia right now. But in UAE's perspective, also you would be able to see the status with the buyer and all these things. So you could select a particular document and click on submit, which would submit that document from your ERP directly. So this can be automated as well. So when you post a particular document, it can be submitted directly to your buyer based on the PEPPOL ID available in your SAP ERP. If there is any validation errors, you'll be able to see that as well in your SAP S/4HANA. So this is usually how we do integration in SAP ERP. So the great benefit, as I've shown in any other ERP right now, is that everything you can manage directly from your ERP. You need not leave your ERP for anything else, but all the things that like status that you need to know, if your buyer has received it, or if FTA has reported this particular transaction, all this will be available within your ERP. So this we usually develop through ABAP code and things like that, where this custom Z program is developed so that you can run it directly from your SAP S/4HANA ERP. And similarly for SAP B1 as well. So if you are using a Business One ERP, we have similar fields like status message over here. I'm not sure if you are clearly able to read this over here, but we have status message fields over here, and a submit button, which would be a submit a report button, or exchange this particular document with buyer in case of UAE. Here we have submit to LHTN, which is tax authority in Malaysia. So once you have a particular transaction and you submit it directly, you will be able to see the submission status and all these things directly from your ERP itself. And when moving forward, if we have a QR code, once you print that particular document from your ERP, at that point of time itself, you'll be able to see the QR code on your PDF itself. We have blurred most of the information over here, but the basic idea is that if there is a QR code, you will be able to see the QR code and everything directly printed on your invoice, even if you issue it from UAE. So basically, in any other ERP, what we have is different buttons that can submit that particular document to the FTA, and as well as give it back to your buyer as well. Even if you are using Oracle Fusion, in Oracle Fusion, it's much more automated. Even if you don't have an OIC, which is a different license for your Fusion ERPs. But once you complete a particular transaction in your Fusion, be it from order management or from directly transactions within this, you would be able to see, what is the status between your buyer and what is the status between your FTA. All these things you will be able to see directly from your ERP in the note section. And once you print out the PDF, if there is a QR in UAE, the QR requirement is still not published by UAE government or FTA, but if we have it, we'll be able to bring that particular QR code onto your uh, you know ERP's PDF directly, so that you can issue it with your customer in that particular format as well. But usually there will not be a QR in UA, because we are already transferring the document in XML format or a standard format with your buyer. Even if you are using Dynamics NAV or Dynamics AX, F&O in this case, or even Business Central or any Dynamics ERP, similarly, we have buttons like submit button, refresh button, and all these buttons specific to that particular e-invoicing, and you will be able to see the status message, all these things directly within your ERP. So once you select a transaction and click on submit, on that particular instant itself, you will be able to see what is the status between your buyer and your the FTA government. So all these things will be populated in your ERP. So you need not leave your ERP for anything else. So back to over here. So in Oracle EBS, we usually use Java concurrent program and a PSQL package that would do the trick in your ERP in order to submit that particular e-invoice with FTA or with your buyer. In SAP S/4HANA, we will create a custom Z program for you. In B1, usually we do it through add-ons. In Fusion, we create BI reports using SOAP and REST APIs in order to update details back to your ERP. And Dynamics F&O, we use Dynamics code X++ in order to create the buttons and submit the API request and all these things. Even if you're using EPICOR, we use Kinetics App Studio, or if you're using Prophet 21, then DynaChange and so on. Other ERPs like Infor, Zoho, or any other ERP, we would have custom codes particular to that ERP in order to do the integration. So we'll show you a list of ERPs that we have already worked with and custom ERPs that we have worked with. And particularly if you are using a SME related application, just like Zoho or any such ERPs, you would be already integrated, because in Malaysia, Zoho has been already using our services in order to issue e-invoices once their users create invoices. So most probably in UAE as well, you'd be already using Flick for issuing e-invoices once you issue any document through Zoho ERP or any other ERP. There are a lot of ERPs in UAE that is already using our e-invoicing solutions in multiple countries, like iBridge, a logistics ERP provider, is using our APIs already. So that's about ERP integration side. And along with the ERP integration, even though you have status and everything in your ERP, we our solution comes with a dashboard which you can log in to this particular dashboard, and it will show you all the documents that you have issued every month, and how much are invalid, or if you have canceled any particular document, then that, and so on. So similarly, we have a tin validator over here. So in UAE, we'll be having a PEPPOL validator as well. So you can just give your buyer's PEPPOL ID and you'll be able to see if it is a valid ID or not. So from here itself, you can raise a ticket or explore our marketplace for more solutions and things like that. So inside this AR documents, you'll be able to see all the documents that you have issued along with their status, the amount, and if you click on view, this I'm showing the dashboard for Malaysia. So this is our sandbox dashboard for Malaysia. So in UAE, we'll have a UAE specific dashboard as well, but this is just to give you an idea about how our dashboard will be looking. So once you click a view details on a particular document, you'll be able to see what are the line items in that, what was the tax percentage, and if there was any prepayment, what is the total payable amount. All such details would be available over here. And in different tabs over here, you'll be able to see the government responses and things like that. Even if you have any any validation error or invalid status, you'll be able to see that particular response in your ERP. But if you want to see directly in our dashboard, we have facility for that as well. So you can see invalid taxpayer profile. So if the buyer's TIN number is incorrect, then all such things will be shown in our dashboard as well. So it is easier for you to manage directly from here, since we have different filters, date range filters. You can search for your e-invoices and so on. So one great thing about PEPPOL is that when you are exchanging the document with your buyer and they receive it, so all your purchase documents will also be available in our dashboard. So you will be able to see different invoices that has been issued by your supplier against your TIN number over here. So basically, if you want to see the details about the invoices that your supplier has issued, all these things you will be able to see directly from our portal as well. And yeah, speaking about the features that we have, so we have in-house ERP integration team. So even if you don't have a technical team that you could utilize for this integration, you can utilize our ERP integration team in order to do the end-to-end integration within your ERP, and be your ERP on premise or on cloud. We have the flexibility to connect with each of these on premise or on cloud servers. And as I mentioned, we are already PEPPOL certified. So delivering through PEPPOL and everything, we are already experienced in other countries which has adopted PEPPOL previous to UAE. And we have dashboard and reconciliation platform where you can reconcile all your purchase documents or your sales documents with your ERP and see the differences directly from our dashboard. We do a lot of validations within your ERP and at our server level in order to see if it's a duplicate submission, or if there is any mistake in your user entry. So all these things you can correct and submit it once again once you have corrected it. And with regards to security, we are already approved in multiple countries by the government authorities like ZATCA in Saudi Arabia, or LSTN in Malaysia, or the GST authority in India, and European authorities like PEPPOL and so on. And we are already ISO certified and SOC2 type 2 certified. So you can be sure that we deal with the data, or your data and the transferring between different entities is fully covered. And for support, we have call, email, or our own ticketing platform. And all the updates that comes after once you have integrated with our APIs comes free of cost. So even in Saudi Arabia or in Malaysia or any European e-invoicing standards, if there is any update from the government. So one thing about e-invoicing is that there is constant updates from the government based on the tax changes, tax law changes, or even stricter laws coming into place where additional information is requested by the government. So all such things would be covered at no additional cost in that case. And as mentioned by Veda during the introduction, we have already integrated with a lot of clients globally. This is a small list from a very long list that is available within our website itself. So Oracle ERP itself is recommending us as a vendor for any e-invoicing requirements in Saudi Arabia and so on. And we have Bureau Veritas, which a larger listed company in France using our e-invoicing solution. Insurance companies, oil and gas, construction companies, and even companies that are already in UAE, like TIPA, which is into construction, having branches in multiple countries, is using our e-invoicing solution in the other countries where e-invoicing is applicable. Even Green Valley Holdings in UAE is using our solution. And as I mentioned, Zoho has been already integrated with our APIs. So any documents issued through Zoho is already being processed through our APIs or through our e-invoicing solution. So as I mentioned, a very small list from a long list of clients that we already have listed in our website. You can visit our website to see the full list of clients, case studies, different testimonials from our clients, and so on. And with saying about the industries that we have worked with automobiles, oil and gas, energy segment, construction, retail, or even hospitals like GT Medicals or Yambu National Hospitals, entertainment segment, hotels. All these segments, you name it, we would have already integrated our solution previously. And saying about the ERP integration, as I mentioned, we already have an in-house team who can do the end-to-end integration for your ERP. So be it any SAP ERP, we have listed a few over here. Even R3, pretty old system, but through FTP, we'll be able to integrate even with your SAP R3 system. Or if you're using latest versions like SAP S/4HANA or Business One in your company, we'll be able to integrate with those. And few of the SAP like CCO, all such peer systems, we have previously worked with those as well. And saying about Oracle, we have worked with NetSuite, JDE, Fusion or EBS applications, Microsoft ERPs like F&O, NAV, AX, Business Central, QuickBooks, IFS ERPs, Infor, LN or Sun Systems, Zero, LS Center, a long list of ERPs as well. So we have worked with custom ERPs and POS systems previously in different countries as well. So even if you are using a custom ERP, we'll be still able to integrate with that system. So I hope this session was bringing insight into FTA's new e-invoicing regulation and things like that. So we'll be having a lot more webinar sessions and newsletters and things like that coming up based on the updates from FTA or the Ministry of Finance in the coming months. So stay tuned for all of these updates. So if we have any questions or anything like that with regards to ERP integration or with e-invoicing mandates, you can put it in the chat box or unmute yourself and we can take care of those questions. So over here, business, so do you support CL versions up to BS? So there is no restriction with regards to any version as such. So as I mentioned, SAP R3 is right around 1999. It's a pretty old ERP system. So still we were able to integrate through it using FTP and other methods. So even if your ERP doesn't support or is pretty old and doesn't support an API integration, we'll still be able to integrate with that. OIC number or PEPPOL ID. So it would be particularly PEPPOL ID within the PEPPOL network itself. Once you have registered within the PEPPOL network, you will be receiving a PEPPOL ID just like this in different countries. So there are different directories for each company, each country itself. I'm just showing you the global PEPPOL directory in Europe. How about archiving the data in your server? Yeah, so different countries have different archiving requirements. So, for example, in Saudi Arabia, it's 7 years. In Malaysia, it's at the end of 7 years, so it's around 8 years. So we do archive all this information for you in our system. So any particular document, even in the future, if you want to see it, just click on view, and it would be still available over here, even if it is past 7 years or more. So if you want us to delete the data from our server, you can just raise a request through email, and we'll be taking care of the data. We'll be giving it you in extract, and we'll be removing it from our server side. So you don't have to worry about archiving at your side. We'll be doing it for you. So even in case of any audit from the government authority, we'll be giving them access directly to the portal based on your approval, and they would have all the data that they would need over here. Even the response from the government side, along with all the logs, will be available directly in the dashboard, which can be exported in any particular format. Yes, timeline, as we mentioned, in the initial slides. So July 2026 is the phase one go live date as of right now. And quarter two in 2025 is where we'll be having the e-invoice legislation, or the policies of or the recommendations, or the structure that we'll be having. And even before this date, we would be having a pilot phase for selected taxpayers to see how the e-invoicing is functioning with the new laws and everything like that. So a lot of developments usually happens during the pilot phase. So most probably Flick will be part of this pilot phase as well. So once the regulations are being issued, we'll be working towards getting the pilot test approved and getting our solution certified from the UAE government. Have you worked with audit firms? Yes, do we have worked with few of the big fours as well previously? uh, you know, if you want to recommend us to or have a partnership program with any audit firms or consultancies, you're free to email us at sales@flick.network. We'll be taking you through, different meetings and see how it works. There are a few more questions. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Unlike KSA, to go through. Yes, UAE, it will be mandatory to be going through PEPPOL service providers. So over here, you will be able to see a lot of PEPPOL service providers, but in UAE, you'll have to use UAE accredited service providers itself. There are different criteria over there. So few of the criteria is that there are different capital requirement for the service provider. He has to be registered within the UAE. So all these things are mandatory. The full list of criteria is not yet published, and it is official. So we had initial meetings with FTA, the Ministry of Finance, and the PEPPOL authority that would be overseeing in UAE. So the initial meeting has been completed. So it was published during that, and it is available even in FTS website. So you can go to the official website to see uh, if PEPPOL, that you can see the PEPPOL is mandatory in UAE. In Malaysia, even though PEPPOL was there, it was not mandated. It was optional. If you want to opt for PEPPOL, you can do that. But in uh, UAE, it would be a mandatory thing, just like Australia or any other country like New Zealand or Japan. Play video for Dynamics, please. I hope you were able to see the video already for Dynamics F&O. We do have videos for Business Central as well, but since it is not relatable to all members in this call, we just played up few of the ERPs in that are much more common in UAE. Other ERPs, 3E Elite. We haven't worked with this specific ERP. It might be specific to your industry, but yeah, if we would be able to provide you with APIs and things like that. So if you have access to the source code, or if there is an add-on available, we'll be sure we be able to integrate with custom ERPs, or much more less standard ERPs. So these are most of the standard ERPs that are being used globally. So we do have internal team who can do that, but we could work with consultants or even with your technical team in order to get integrated with these ERPs. Does it integrate with 3E? Yeah, the same question, right? Yeah. Yes, I think we have other custom built accounting. Yes, we have worked with a lot of custom built ERPs as well. So say for example, in construction industry, it is pretty much common to have custom ERPs, or even in manufacturing companies, it is pretty much common that you are using a custom ERP in order to e-invoice or create your invoices right now. So we'll be able to integrate with your custom ERP without any issue. We have done it in multiple countries in Europe and even in Middle East itself. So yeah, not I would they have to get, yes, definitely yes. So as per the FAQ released by the Ministry of Finance, if you don't have a tax registration number, you would have to register with FTA to get that in and be onboarded to e-invoicing. So you'll have to mandatorily get that done in order to do e-invoicing. So I think that was the last question that we have. If there is any more questions, you can raise your hand or unmute yourself, or drop your questions in the chat box. Yes, Norwin. Yeah. I think you will be able to unmute yourself. If not, just drop your questions in the chat box. We'll be able to take care of that. Yes, I think there is no more raised hands right now. Okay.
Sure. Sudhakar here.
Yes.
Yeah, just
Yes.
I want to know that, what is the difference between PEPPOL and ZATCA?
Yeah. ZATCA itself is a government authority in KSA, which reports it. So in this case, we already have Ministry of Finance itself over there in UAE, which you need to report it. But in this case, in ZATCA's case, you were able to give your document in any electronic format via email or anything like that. But in UAE, you have to do it through PEPPOL Network itself. So there is a specific committee that is being set up in UAE as well, which is a UAE PEPPOL committee. So basically, how you have to transfer the data to the Ministry of Finance or to the buyer will be through the PEPPOL network. So in case of ZATCA, say for example, if ZATCA mentioned that you have to give that particular document from your service provider itself through PEPPOL network, then it would be more like UAE, where we have to report the transaction to ZATCA. But in this case, there was clearance of the document as well. But in case of UAE, it's always you can transfer the document to the buyer's service provider through PEPPOL network, but also you have to report that particular transaction to Ministry of Finance through AS4 protocol in PEPPOL itself. So the method of communication goes through PEPPOL, but the entities remains the same in e-invoicing of five-corner model in UAE. So I hope, Sudhakar, that cleared your question. If not, if you have further questions, we're
Yeah,
happy to.
clear. So thanks.
I think we have few more questions over here. Apart from API, do you have other options in the platform? Yes, we do definitely have. I think I haven't covered that. So basically, if you have, if you are using pretty old ERP system and you don't want to integrate it with our APIs, or you are in transition to a newer ERP and you don't want to integrate with your older ERP, then in the meantime, you can use our Excel templates, where you could just export the data in this particular template, or manually fill up the data in this particular template over here and fill up the details. Like all the transaction codes will be available as a drop down over here. So even if the government requires, maybe the payment terms might be in cash, but the government requires it in a particular format like 01 or anything like that. So I'm just saying from the perspective of Malaysia, which I'm just showing you the portal from. So you'll be able to do it like that. Or we do have options like, I'll just see if I'm able to log in into another, test instance of ours where we would have a generate e-invoice button as well. So from here, you will be able to see your, select your customer, select the document type, select the invoice date, and, whatever is the item, you can add that item, add multiple items, create new items, or anything like that. So this is specific to Saudi Arabia. So for example, if I type in Apple or something like that, the Arabic would come in automatically, where Arabic was mandatory over there. So we are yet to see what are the mandatory things in UAE. So you can select the tax percentage and all these things based on this, and create a particular invoice directly from our portal. So different integration methods is that, one, you can use APIs, you can import through Excel or any other text file, or we have option for OCR, or optical character recognition from PDF files, but your PDF needs to be in standard formats. Only in that case it would work. So you have import from Excel files or CSV files. You can directly enter into our portal, use API integration methods, and so much other ways that you can connect with our system through FTP as well. Yes, over here you stated that each vendor. Yes, it is actually issued by FTA. So in the Ministry of Finance website, you would be able to see that each member has to have separate endpoint being listed in the Ministry of Finance website itself. And thank you. You're welcome. You can stay tuned with our newsletters to get more information from the updates that we'll have in UAE. What is your add-on role if API integration available from? Yes, so most probably, since a UAE accredited service provider is required, to issue your e-invoices, even if your ERP does provide you with something. In other countries it might be possible, but in UAE, if your ERP provider, you know, needs to have, the accreditation from the UAE government, they need to be registered within UAE. So there are a lot of conditions that they need to satisfy. So we'll have to see, if ERPs do provide it for you. Usually it's a much more costlier option, rather than going with a team that is, specifically, have a lot of experience just in e-invoicing itself. So we have been working for years in multiple countries, as mentioned by Veda during the introduction. So we have the experience, uh, you know, uh, for any other e-invoicing related queries. We'll be able to take up your support and things like that, which your ERP provider might not be able to do, as it is not their core area. So I hope that clears your question. Could you please go cost as a? So usually the cost is two elements are there. So one is a one-time fee and there is a subscription fee. So this subscription fee take care of all your support, our dashboard enablement, all these costs that are associated with the e-invoicing. In some countries like Malaysia, if I am able to say, that there are certification costs as well. So we have to purchase a certificate in order to issue any e-invoice. So all these costs will be covered in the subscription cost, and the one-time cost is usually for the one-time development in your ERP system. So even if you are using a custom ERP or even Oracle or SAP or anything like that, so there will be a one-time fee if you are using our services in order to integrate with our ERP. But if your technical team itself is doing that, you can get rid of this one-time fee or reduce it, and just take care of the subscription fee, which is monthly or annually based on your contract with our team. Our BTs need to be reported. Yes, this is yet to be released by the FTA. So the difference between B2B and B2C transaction, all these things needs to be released or will be available in the Q2 of 2025. So in different countries, it is dealt differently. Say, for example, in neighboring country like KSA, you have to report B2C transaction within 24 hours. But in Malaysia, you can just do it at the month end within 7 days. So it depends upon what FTA comes up with for B2C transactions. So it is still not released. Project timeline to implement this solution. Yes, the cost depends upon your ERP and the involvement from our team. So it would depend from project to project. And the timeline, it takes around 2 to 4 weeks to get integrated with your ERP, depending upon your ERP. If it is EBS or any standard ERP, will be much more quicker with the integration. So within a week or two, we'll be able to integrate with your system. But if you're using a less common ERP or a custom ERP, it might take some more time to get integrated with your ERP. I think that was the last question. And yeah, I think whether you can wind up this meeting if there is no more questions that we have.
Thank you, Irshad, for the very insightful sharing, and thank you, everyone. I'm sure most of you have more questions. We would like to have a one-to-one session with you if possible. Please do reach out or keep a lookout for our sales team to reach out to you as a follow-up. And we look forward to explore further a much more tailor-made demo or a live demo if you wish to see, and share more insights to you on onboarding or getting ready for the upcoming e-invoicing requirement from the FDA. So Irshad, again, thanks, and thank you everyone for joining. I hope you all have a great day. Great to have you here today. Thank you, and have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.